All right. Zhao, welcome to the
Imran,
show.
thank you. Appreciate it, man.
If you had to explain what your company is about with someone who's never heard of it, zero context, how would you explain it?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I'll give you like the one line answer, right? You
Yeah,
know,
let's do it.
the catchy one. It's like we make growing food more like owning a fridge than it is like gardening.
Okay.
That's like our one line catch. And basically, if I had to sort of elaborate more on it, it's like, okay, well, we combine different aerospace and commercial technologies into a home appliance that makes growing food cheaper, easier, and more nutritious than what you would garden or what you would buy off supermarket shelves.
Okay. Well, how does the whole machine, the fridge,
The
how
fridge,
how
yeah.
does it work?
The theoretical fridge
Yep.
works, yeah. So it's a tower that sits on your balcony. It's about 180 centimeters tall, 40 centimeters wide in diameter, and it incorporates a fefew different technologies. The core one being aeroponics, but there are a few others that we've gotten from a few other startups around the world. And essentially, it's a plug and play system. You
Yeah.
just let it run. You fill it up with water and nutrition once a week, and you just let it run for the entire week and just let it do its thing.
Cool. This is like a very niche product that you guys are delving into. I guess I wanna understand, how did you guys end up here doing this specific thing?
How did we end up here? I mean, I got to talk about my co-founder, I guess, for it,
Okay.
because he's had this idea for ages,
Mhm.
and he was working on it maybe a year before I came on. But bit of background about me: I study agriculture here at Melbourne Uni, and I worked with a lot of sort of controlled environment and vertical systems beforehand. And it was a chance encounter where we kind of just met at a student society event. He was the president of the Healthy Eating Society. I was the education officer for
Okay.
the Agriculture Society. And he was like, "Oh, I just work in startups." And I'm like, "I'd love to hear what you do." And he gave me this whole spiel about what he wanted to do, how he wanted to bring health, vitality back into the hands of people, because the produce on supermarket shelves just aren't doing it. And the aeroponics as sort of like a concept was what he proposed to me. And I sort of just went, I like the sound of this. And so over most of last year, we sort of ideated and worked on the product until we sort of came up with this, which is probably a lot more fleshed out than what it was at the start. But the start of the idea was brought up around him, and he sort of pulled me and a few other people together around bringing health back to people, right? And my role in it was basically to take that and try and make it as realistic as possible.
I see. So, did you feel like you were filling a gap in the market, or I guess creating something that people didn't know that they needed?
Yeah, I mean, we're still yet to figure that out, right? So we haven't gotten any customers yet on the direct-to-customer side.
Yeah.
So obviously we want to make this mass market. We want to
Sure.
make this like the Apple of food-growing devices, because gardening and everything else that's sort of on the market is really hard or really expensive or not nutritious, right? And so that's why we think this is a gap in the market. That's realistically, we can only base most of what we're assuming off of assumptions. So it's like, we think that people want to have control of where their food comes from. We think people want nutritious food, and we think they want it for cheap. And so we sort of built everything around all these assumptions, and sort of came up with this. And obviously we just came out of our MVP phase. So we've just finished our first saleable unit, which is actually currently displayed at Yugo Uni Square.
What is the MVP stage?
The minimum viable product stage is basically just a product that we can sell and we're happy to put into customers' homes. As a hardware startup, you reach something called the Valley of Death.
Okay, talk about that.
The Valley of Death is basically, I don't know how popular of a term it is, but it's basically, as a hardware startup, you develop your MVP, and that costs relatively not that much money. But after you develop your MVP, you need to get to the next stage, which is being able to sell to your market.
Okay.
And that, if you need to, like injection mold, and you need to manufacture, it generally means that you need a heavy capital injection to get there. And so right now we're in that stage of just coming out of 6 months of that product development and getting our MVP. And so we need to reach our commercialization standpoint. We need to be able to go through the Valley of Death and come out victorious.
I see. And how's that going so far?
Yeah, so we've essentially sort of halfway through going through it. We're doing B2B deals at the moment, and we're currently selling to property developers. So
I
it's
see.
instead of having a large marketing budget that we need to sell to consumers and also be able to manufacture, we can sort of go to our B2B side that would be interested in what we're doing and fits the market and go, this is what we're offering. Let's work out a deal and we'll be able to deliver it to you at this certain stage.
I see. Okay. Talk to me about the struggles of startup culture. You know, I think it's a very glamorous space for a lot of people who kind of are viewing it from the outside.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, let's do a startup. It's like a new trend.
Yeah.
Right? I guess what do people don't see?
I mean, as a startup, you want to show people the glamorous side, right?
Yeah.
That's what like draws people in. That's what makes people want to buy your product and
Yeah.
follow you is like, oh, this guy's living such a glamorous life. But obviously it's not always the case, right? You know, there's so much risk attached to it. And I probably, if you've heard a lot of podcasts around startups, I'm probably a worn out record with a lot of this. You know, we're currently moved in together, me and my co-founder and another one of our team, and we're sort of just scraping by financially. And like a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. And there's a lot of probably things people aren't comfortable with. I wake up around 6, 7 in the morning, get working until about midnight, and I go to sleep, and then it just repeats day after day. And you really got to find something that you are entirely passionate about. And I think that might be one of the harder things. Obviously, you know, you talk about the purpose of life, you talk about what you're meant to do in this world, and it's like, it's not an easy thing to figure out, right? So it's like, it's not exactly the easiest ask, but you know, once you find that passion, the one that gets you out of bed and makes you want to just run on the treadmill every single day and go through all the hardships associated with it, you know, there's not just one thing. Everything hits you either all at once or a bit at a time. And it's just like, there's no specific answer for it, but it's just, I think with that, it's just finding something you're so passionate about, you're willing to go through every single bad thing that could happen, every single risk, just grit down and make it work is something probably really important.
I see. Was there an emotional driver behind starting Gnositukoi?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like, you know, the emotional driver behind joining, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to that, it's like I study agriculture here at Melbourne Uni, like I said, and basically the reason why I got into agriculture was because I wanted to solve world hunger.
Okay.
And that's a very, very like large sort of problem. And it was world hunger, not just like people having access to food, but also nutritional food, right? So these are two very big issues, because if you don't have nutritional food, there's no point in really eating the food other than to make sure that you sort of have a bit of energy. But nutrition really matters, especially in like development as a young child, in sort of your brain, your body, how that interacts. It's like, you know, a lot of places in the world don't have that. So that's like, I guess if you talk about emotional driver, that's like the main thing, is that I decided at 18 that I was going to do whatever it takes to go off and do it. I've been an obsessive person for a little bit, let's just say. And agriculture was my avenue. And then I was sort of floating around in it, trying to see where should I go to do it. And I didn't think I'd be able to do it until 20, 30 years down the line, when I have more knowledge, more experience, things like that. And then along comes Cooper with sort of the same mindset of what I want to do in a bit more of a fleshed out form, and goes, I just like, this is the idea on like how I think this can be done, and I just need it to be done. And so I'm just like, I love it. Let's go off and make it a reality. And sort of, you know, that's again, like I guess one thing to take out of it is if you have a really great sort of mission and values behind what you do that isn't just money. You know, money is a tool to make the change rather than a means to an end, right? If you can really view it in that way, then you can draw people in that want the same thing as you. And yeah, that's sort of what it is. So I guess that's the emotional driver, is making change in the world for a good cause.
Enough. You and your co-founder sound like a match made in heaven. Honestly, it's like, it's pretty hard to find, I guess, a good person to work with. I think a lot of people jump into business with someone else not really knowing too much about what they're about. Yeah. And that just, from what I've heard, usually ends really badly.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm pretty happy to hear that you found someone with like a similar goal.
Absolutely. Believe me, I'm very glad as well. Like to be fair, like him and I are very opposite people. but it
Okay.
means that his strengths are my weaknesses, and
Yeah.
my weaknesses are like, vice
Yep,
versa.
yep.
We cover each other's bases in a lot of that way. And I think people talk about, how do I find a co-founder? How do I like do this? I think it's like, I know it's not an easy thing to ask of a lot of people, but having your goals in life and your sort of what drives you figured out early, and sort of making everything that you do in life sort of kind of revolve around like that purpose is really going to drive those people towards you. Like, I think if I hadn't followed the path of agriculture, and didn't have that thing of wanting to do good and work on nutrition and hunger, probably what Cooper's saying probably wouldn't have resonated with me, and I wouldn't have gone into like the same conversation as what we had when we had a chat about it. So I really think it's like, you can talk about manifestation and all that, but it's like when you really believe in something and make it a core value of yourself, you attract people and the right people to come in and help you work on that problem, because it's very rare to find those types of people, people that have the same intentions as you and are also very capable, and a whole host of things.
I guess I want to understand where did the drive come from. You wanting to solve world hunger is, like you said, it's this very big problem, right?
Yeah.
I want to understand. Did you just wake up one day and you're like, this is something that I'm really passionate about? Did something happen in your life that made you feel that this is a problem that you're fit to solve and you want to solve?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a fantastic question. So if you I guess there's like two major things that sort of came about it. First one is my dad passed away when I was 12.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
No, that's all right. It happened a while ago, to be fair. But it's one of those things where it's like, then you ask, why did this happen? It was always a thing in our lives of nutrition was such a big deal.
Yeah.
I talk about childhood nutrition, right? He grew up in communist China where his family didn't have access to a lot of nutritional food, or maybe food in general for that sense, but not a lot of nutritional food at the very least.
Understood.
And a lot of those developmental things that I talk about, he probably didn't have when he was younger. And so what that resulted in was a lot of health problems when he got older, after he he started a family, all that.
Yeah.
These problems really started to show. And sort of, that's like the first step, right? The fact that as a child he was not able to have these things, and then it sort of develops into this thing that causes a lot of grief for your family afterwards. And obviously, your life's cut short really early. I think no one should have to deal with that, especially with the resources that we have available to us in this world. It's like that's crazy to me that that's still a thing, right? So it's like that's one of the big things, and a lot of people suffer from that nutritional starvation, I guess. If you look at the Aboriginal community in Australia, I think one of the statistics is that a lot of them don't have access to nutritional food. So what happens is 60% of all preventable deaths in that community are because we can't get nutritional food out to them. And we are one of the biggest producers of food in the world. And we can't even feed sort of like, not just our own people, but like, these people have been here for tens of thousands of years.
Sure.
It's crazy. Like, that's one of the big things. And then the second thing was, in sort of year 11, year 12, VCE, deciding what you want to do for uni, I was very much stuck on the path of commerce, on business, maybe even policing or firefighting, something like that. And I guess policing and firefighting was actually more indicative of the fact that I wanted to do good in the world. Yeah. And then when it comes to business and commerce, it was like I wanted to just like follow that path that a lot of my friends were following down, which was like make as much money as possible, look after your family, things like that, which is still a very big thing in mind, but you realize that you can do it in a different way. And so I sort of, the final day before VTAC closed, so VTAC being the process that you apply to your university for, the day before that closed, I sort of shifted all my courses around, and I decided, no, I want to do work in an industry that's really underserviced, and I want to make big impact in that. And obviously, with everything that happened in life, it's like probably agriculture was going to be where I'd do it. Mum always was a gardener when I was young. She always grew a lot of plants, and I was like, well, I mean, that was also because of the nutritional thing. She was very worried about nutrition at that point with everything that's happened. And it's probably a bigger problem in China and a lot of other countries beforehand than it is now, but it's still a thing that Mum was really careful about. And so it sort of rubbed off on me, and I was like, this is probably what I want to dedicate my life to. So that's probably where it all started. I mean, there were a few other things. I think I'm going to just go off on a little bit of a talk here because this is
Yeah.
one thing I love talking about.
Please,
But
go ahead.
I went to India in year 11,
Okay.
and we did a thing with the World Wildlife Foundation, which was touring their. It was a sanctuary for sloth bears, I think. And it was basically, I think back in the day, they used to have dancing bears in every corner in northern India, or I don't know if it's entirely India, but they had these dancing bears. And the government would try and quash it by taking all the bears away. And the families who have known nothing but that for their entire life and generations of that family, they would just go out and train more sloth bears because they didn't know anything else. They didn't know where else to get money from. It was like ingrained in what they do. And so the government did this thing where instead of just taking the bears away, they actually employed the families to be caretakers of the bears at these sanctuaries. And from then on, I forget when it was. Maybe it was in the in the late 2000s or early 21st, but 21st, like early like 2000s. Sorry, I meant.
Yeah.
Basically, like they haven't had a single dancing bear in India since, and it's like this isn't just about dancing bears. It's about like transitions of things that maybe weren't good before and finding really great ways to sort of make it equitable and make it just again in a way that benefits everyone. That was sort of my first click of just like, there is so much that I can do for a lot of these problems that I see around the world that can be done in a really good and just way. And that really invigorated. I think that was one of the, like, that's something I always reference because you always got to think about everyone involved, like the whole system and everything that happens. And when you look at agriculture, you obviously always need to do that no matter what.
How does your obsessive personality type kind of tie into what you do? Do you think that there's ever a moment that you feel that it gets in the way of whatever you're doing? Or do you feel that it genuinely really, really helps you?
Oh, that's a really great question. My obsession will always help. I think the thing that you really need to be worried about, I think, in no matter what you do, is the focus, right? The focus in which you put into the things that you do. Because if you spread your focus too thin, even though there's all these different things that you want to do. I wanted to get into policy and the World Food Forum and all these things and policy even last year and all these different things. It's like, they're so attractive. Yeah. It's like the woman in the red dress thing that my co-founder tells me about. And it's like, the woman in the red dress, and it's like, you probably just can't do all of that in the time that's allocated. You have a life and you're going to die someday. And it's like, you need to get as much as you can done sort of now. Yeah. And so really dialing in that focus allows you to just be more effective and actually move forward on the things that you want to do. I've seen in my life where it's like, I might be obsessed about the problem, but I've spread my focus so thin that I haven't actually moved on any of those things that I wanted to do. And so it's like, has my obsession held me back? Absolutely not. Has focus held me back sometimes? Probably. And that's one of the main things I tell people normally now is like, don't be afraid of your obsession, because your obsession is what's going to make sure that you drive forward the change that you want to make. Yeah. And so what you really need to dial in and focus on is your focus. So it's like
100%. I think I really agree with that. There's this whole culture where it's like, a balanced life. In my opinion, I think you living a balanced life will not get you to where you want to be. I think especially if you want to be great. If you look at the greatest people of our time, I guess the Ronaldos and the Michael Phelps of our generation, they didn't get there by living their balanced life. They're obsessed.
They're obsessed.
100% obsessed. You know? I think that's what it takes. But what you said about focus is really, really, really true. I think, me included, I think it's something that I really struggle with. Because there's so many things going on. And not just opportunities, like stuff like meet up with friends. Oh, yeah. That kind of don't bring you, I guess, closer to your goals. So I guess something that I've been really trying to implement in my life is either it's a fuck yes or no. Yeah. If I can't look at something and if someone asks me out for coffee and I'm like, fuck yeah. Yeah. It's a no.
No, learning to say no has been my greatest superpower so far. It's just I have to be just like, no, I can't, I'm so sorry, I just can't do it. I will say something on on sacrifices and balance and things like that. I think I can sacrifice a lot of things I do because I really love and I'm really happy doing what I'm doing now. And I think a lot of people, when they look at this and it's like when you say one thing's the right way to do something, it's not always the case. I think there are people that probably don't want to do what I do and they want to be able to hang out with friends and enjoy life as it is. And there is honestly nothing wrong with that. I think it's like there's always this contention between it. You have to be constantly grinding for it. And it's just like, well, if you don't have a great enough purpose and you're just grinding for the sake of grinding, sometimes maybe that's not going to make you happy, and then you're not going to, deliver on some of the stuff that you want to do. And in that case, like, there's probably, no point in just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff. So it's like, there's a fine balance to it. I don't think there's anything wrong with hanging out with friends and doing all that. It's just, once, like, you are right though. When you're doing something that you're completely obsessed in and needs a lot of work, for maybe even something like this, and it's to do with a lot of the big problems in the world. There are stuff that unfortunately has to get sacrificed. Like, I do wish I had more time to hang with friends and hang with family, but it's just like, these are the things that sort of you do have to try and I guess balance as much as you can, but you can't really balance it too well. But you just,
I get what you're saying though.
Turn priorities into priorities.
There will always be the priorities. Like, if you have, let's say, 3 goals that you're working towards currently, and there's something that sounds really nice, an opportunity or a chance for you to do something else, and you got to be like, no, because that's going to get in the way of you reaching your goals. Then it sucks, because there's a lot of good things to do. But having the ability to just say, I'm sorry, I would really, really love to, but I can't do it right now.
In saying that though, I think this goes back to, like, one of the questions you asked about, like, what's the hardest thing about being a founder or doing some of the things that you do? And it's like, loneliness is one of the biggest things. And that's not just in startups, but when you're doing something that is completely different to how most people view the world. I think that's more prominent in startups, because when you're doing a startup, you're looking at a world in a different lens. You're trying to shift it and move the needle in a way that not everyone's at the moment. Because you see that in sustainability a lot as well, where it's like, maybe 10 years ago especially, it would have been even more sort of lonely, because it's like, when it comes to friends and family, and not a lot of them are going to get what you're trying to do. And a lot of the time that's completely fine. But unfortunately, like, that's just the case of it. You try and explain it to them, you try and tell them, but if they don't see it the way that you see it, a lot of the time it's sort of, it's just unfortunate. But I've definitely shifted friend groups quite a lot as I sort of get more and more obsessed with what I do, and it becomes I always call them unfortunalities. Like, unfortunately, like, it just sort of drifted away. You guys just stop understanding each other so much. You start having less time. You just want to dial in on this, and it just becomes a thing. But again, it's like, I'm so glad I found my co-founder, because if I hadn't, this would be such a very lonely journey when you're trying to tackle big problems.
That actually is one of the questions that I have. I actually wanted to ask you, how do you deal with the loneliness of being, a startup founder? Because I'm sure there are very lonely days, lonely nights, like, especially the more you grow, which is something that I realized. I think it's not just very much for people who are starting a business, but people who are just leveling up in general, wanting to shed their own skin, their old self, wanting to kill that version of themselves to become a better person. There's this, I don't know if you know Chris Williamson. He's a podcaster.
I've probably heard of some like maybe quotes that he's said, but there's always like, again, I'm not too involved with all that.
Sure.
So
if you see his face, you'd probably see like an Instagram edit of him or something. But so he talks about this thing where it's called the lonely chapter.
Oh no, I was just going to talk about that, because I actually no, that's I think I know this guy.
Yeah, so he I think he was on Joe Rogan recently, and he talked about the lonely chapter. How there's a period in your life where you're shedding off the old friends, but at the same time, you're not where you want to be to make new friends. Yeah,
that was the exact quote I was going to reference to you just then. It's one thing.
So whenever you say that, it is exactly what I think about. And I think a lot of people in that little area, the lonely chapter, they kind of think that it's just going to be like that forever, and that a lot of them revert back to their old ways because they think that they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I guess, how do you deal with that?
I think I have a great group of people around me now, my co-founder especially, and my roommate, who's really driven about what we do, and we've got sort of like a small group of friends that we sort of picked up along the way that are really supportive of what we do, and these are the people that might not understand it completely, but they're always driving us to want to do better. These are maybe startup founders themselves, or people that just really want to change the world in general. And, some of these places where I've found these people, like, for example, the Waddle Fellowship here at Melbourne Uni, people working in sustainability, maybe not specifically startups, but people who want to change the world for the better. And then there's like, different startup events, different friend groups you go into, and you just sort of pick people up along the way. And, like I'd organize a hiking group every month now where we just go out for a hike. And I think we've got about 7 people coming to the next one. So it's like, I try and do things to arbitrage it a little bit. Like like knowing that quote, I know it's sort of like, that's sort of the reality that you live in, right? And so you try and bring people that might not understand, but at least are very supportive of what you do, and you're supportive of them and what they're doing.
Yeah.
And just being together and chatting about what you're doing and just going through that is like, it's been fantastic. But I think, I think getting that co-founder that really understands you and what you're doing, and really wants to get to the core of the issues and keep solving them is like really important in that lonely period. But it's like, you're going to find it. Like I said, your family's not going to understand. Your friends aren't going to understand. Your potential partners aren't going to understand. These things just like they keep rolling. It's just finding people that support you when they don't understand. That's probably the biggest thing.
It's so important, I think, to surround yourself with people. They don't have to understand, but they can't be pulling you down.
Yeah.
Like crabs in a bucket.
Yeah.
Like a crab trying to crawl out.
Yeah.
And all the rest of them are trying to pull him back in.
Yeah.
Like the amount of people that I guess I see who have that kind of friend group that kind of shame them for trying to leave the box.
I hate it. I've been a part of groups like that before, like early in my life, and it's like, it's always so, how do I put it? It's just, it's very tiring to be in that environment when all you want to do is change the world for the better. And it's like, it's not anything against them. I think a lot of these big issues, especially with startups and sustainability, I think people sometimes, they don't have the economy or the privilege or anything like that to be able to think about it in the way that you're able to. They're thinking about keeping themselves alive and how are they going to, get food on the table, or how are they going to support their family, things like that. And it's, I never find malice against people who don't think the same way you do. It's just different. It's different in life, in upbringing, and all these things. Again, I'm very much a proprietor, as you can probably see. It's like there's no right path for life. It's not that everyone has to be a startup founder. Not everyone has to grind. Yeah. It's just like, now that we're in this space, we talk about it as it is, which is this space. But everyone sort of has their own lives, and you can't control what people think. I think at the end of the day, you sort of control yourself and how you react to everything. But that's about the most of what you can do in terms of control, because controlling people isn't ever like the right thing.
I would probably advise against that. Yeah. But again, you're only in control of yourself.
You got to learn when to step away.
Exactly.
I think, a lot of this.
I think that's so difficult for a lot of people. Like they're constantly just stuck in like this little rat race of wanting to please their old friends, but at the same time wanting to get out of that space, and because they know that they're not good for them. And
one great example is I have a friend who I've known since I was about 4 or 5 years old. So we went to primary school together, very young, and we went through primary school and high school all together. And he's on a very different path in his life, very, very different to mine. But he's never someone that would ever think to pull me down. And he'd never think me to pull him down in any way, or try and judge life in any sort of manner. And we sort of still have calls, and we still talk. We still maybe play video games once or twice, a year. And that's just like one thing I'm really grateful for. Someone that's seen you grow up year by year and has never tried anything to be like, oh, well, that's stupid, man. Like, why are you doing that? Like, oh, you should be more like me. It's just, oh, cool, man. That's awesome. Hell yeah. I love that you're doing it. And that's something I'm really grateful. That's when it's very rare to see. You go through life and you do get a lot of people that sort of want you to be more like them. And it's like when I'm not trying to do that, not in a bad way, but it's just like I want to go my way and you're not supporting me. It's like it becomes tiring.
Yeah, I get that. I think I like to view life like a bus trip. It's like maybe 5 of your friends, you guys all get on at the same stop, but I guess along the way, everyone gets off at a different stop, and you got to be okay with that.
It is the beauty of it.
Yeah,
it is the beauty of it, which is why I'm so critical about the fact that you got to be someone that's supportive. Like you don't have to get off at the same stop. Yeah. But if you're on that bus and you're being supportive along the way, that matters more than anything 100% in life, realistically.
Yeah. All right. Talking about something else that you were starting beyond.
Yeah. So in the context of like a podcast, I guess it's like there's the Gnositukoi as a startup, right? And then there's like my view of agriculture as a whole. So Beyond Ag, which is the accelerator program that I'm running here at Melbourne Uni, aligns more with my view of agriculture in general. And what needs to change about agriculture. So I don't know if you want to transition into that or what you want to do with it.
Go for it, man. Tell me about that.
Tell you about Beyond Ag?
Yeah.
No. So Beyond Ag is an accelerator program I'm running here at Melbourne Uni. So essentially, I only found out what a startup was around January last year.
Okay.
And I didn't really understand it completely until about this time last year. So it's been a very short time
Yeah.
in my life that I've found out what a startup is and everything around it, right? And it's been eye-opening in every term of the sense. Like the amount of people that just want to do world-breaking things and move the needle and everything. It's like, it's so inspirational. And it's one of those things that, I wish I had back earlier in my life. I wish I started this when I was like 18, 19. And so it's like, you're looking at, and we're going to talk about this in a second with like how I think about agriculture, but it's like there's a lot of gaps in agriculture. It was sort of a system that was made to do what it needed to do, and there's no one to blame about it. I don't think it's right to blame farmers. It's not right to blame certain people for it, but it's like it's a system that actually was set up to fail in some sort of way, I guess.
How so?
Like more so like nutritionally and economically for farmers and consumers. You look at it now, it's like it's really expensive for farmers to do what they love doing, which is growing food. You see more and more smallholder farms shutting down, not being able to do what they do, and you see the prices on your shelf rise higher and higher. And so it was like, we're getting at a stage where there's a lot that sort of needs to change. It's not sustainable both economically and it's not sustainable environmentally either. You look at soil degradation and all that being the main cause of nutritional loss in our food. You look at dust storms. You look at the fact that, the Western Port Bay here in Victoria is running off into the ocean and, we're losing a lot of land. Is like, as we've cleared land for agriculture, more of our earth gets destroyed. As we basically look for more extraction, we pay more for food on our supermarket shelves. And so it's like a lot needs to be done. What that is, I'm not entirely sure yet. I want to think Gnositukoi, like the startup, is the answer, but it's like there's a lot that goes into it. There's stuff about re-greening the places that have been growing food. There's a lot about transitioning these different things. It's where that sloth bear analogy comes in, right? About like changing the system, but still making it in a way that doesn't just like forget about the old world and chucks them in the bin.
For sure.
It's like, all that. And one of the big things with agriculture and especially ag tech startups is that people in the city don't know how to communicate with farmers, and farmers don't especially know how to communicate with those in the city, or they don't want to. And so you have this problem in the agriculture innovation and research and startup sector where you don't have product market fit because people in the city think that they know exactly what farmers want. It's nothing like it. This is like the classic like thing of like talking to your customers, right? Your product, while your product managers matter.
Exactly.
And for some reason in ag tech, it's just not. It's probably getting more popular now, but it hasn't notoriously been that popular to talk about it in that way. It was like, I know the answer for it, and so I'm going to go out and do it. And obviously, as farmers, they don't have time to sort of go out and start a startup. And so you sort of need really capable product managers that can connect both dots, and they're very separate worlds. And so with this Beyond Ag program, there's sort of two main goals for it. During the program, we hope to sort of educate students, whether you're computer science, engineering, agriculture, you can be studying anything, to learn about the agriculture system, the food system in general, so not just primary production, which is your on-farm stuff, but also the entire value chain up to when it gets to your plate. We also want to sort of connect agriculture students who've probably been on farms themselves and worked with farmers or come from a farming family with sort of like problem solvers and tool builders and all these people that are doing amazing things, and move a lot of that shift towards agriculture where there's a lot of gaps for things that need to be done and there's no one doing it. And so it's like, with the program, hopefully we can get people talking together interconnectivity. Melbourne Uni, not to throw any shade, doesn't do a great job of connecting different faculties together and having sort of cross-pollination of ideas and sort of skills.
Yeah. Let's go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, no,
'Cause
go for it. Yeah.
I actually have some thoughts about
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I do. It's funny that you mentioned that. I feel like the faculties are very disconnected.
Very. When you come from agriculture, you feel it probably twice as hard.
Yeah, you probably feel it a lot more. So I'm a commerce student. So I'm studying business. And
And how many agriculture students do you meet on the day-to-day, right?
You're the first one. You're the only agriculture student that I know.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and it's just it would be nice to meet people, because the only people that I technically meet are all commerce students, basically, who are all kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I would love to sit down and talk with like science students, like art students, even agriculture students, like having a space where we can mix and learn about different things. I don't know how that would look like. I have no idea, but it's just a thought that I have. It's like,
I'll look it up after this podcast, but basically there's a building that I love to reference. And I only found out recently that the Melbourne Connect building here at Melbourne Uni was modelled around this MIT building that was built back during World War II. So it was a very shoddily made building that was there to basically, I think it was either work on sound-related devices for the military, or it was maybe nuclear during World War II. But it was a building that was basically just purposed for that. And after World War II ended, MIT didn't know what to do with the building. And so they put a bunch of different faculties and a bunch of different PhDs into this building to work on their projects. They could knock down walls, they could screw different things in, move like devices in and out, and have offices wherever. They could, again, break down those walls. It's crazy, right? Just this malleable building where you just have all these different disciplines inside. And they just go crazy. This building was also very, very confusing to walk inside. And so people would always get lost and start talking to each other about what they're doing. And what would happen is you would get some of your biggest innovations, even today, come out of that building. I think it was a headphone brand that still exists today. Came out of that. The first language models that our AI is sort of made around today came out of that building too.
Okay.
And there were a lot of things, a lot of stuff around language, a lot of stuff around sort of just like being able to implement technology, where it was just because these people were able to have that space to come together. And I don't think I've read or seen anything that really mimics that too well in the modern age. And that's always fascinated me, the fact that it makes sense. A lot of big problems need to be solved interdisciplinarily, and it's not being cultivated in that sort of way. And I think agriculture, at least from my perspective, I don't know, it probably absolutely applies to every single other industry, but it's one where you got to look at biology, physics, you got to look at technology, you got to look at software, you got to look at, all these different things, human relations, you got to look at a whole host of things. And it doesn't just take one person who knows one specific niche to solve it. It takes a lot of different people with different knowledges to come together and sort of do that. And again, I think it can be applied to a lot of different industries, but agriculture is one that I'm very intimately knowledgeable of. And it's one that I hope to sort of, at least change it in the agriculture industry through Beyond Ag, getting these students together, having these friendships, maybe partnerships made, where you solve a problem together in this program, you pitch it, you figure out that, crap, maybe I can do something great early in my life. Because I think a lot of people fall down that rabbit hole of, I've got to wait 20 years before I can do something great and change in the world. But you can do it now, especially with the support that you have around you at Melbourne Uni. I mean, you've got the Tulsa Creator Space, you've got like the Melbourne School of Design, you've got all these things and all these people with great skills and want to do something great for the world. Yeah. Get them together in a room and just pardon me. And then just get them to talk. Yeah. I think that's something, to be a little bit critical about the uni doesn't do very well. I don't think I met a single commerce student before I met my co-founder, and that was because I was introduced to him through the society's sort of program where I was the education officer, and that sort of, if I had never been there, I don't think I would have ever figured out what a startup was. For sure. Community is important, man. Very, very important. It's something that I feel like we've kind of lost, ever since the whole pandemic happened.
I think community is what people have been trying to look for ever since then. I don't know if you feel this way. I don't know if you agree with me.
Yeah.
I felt it. I think very much so. I think I'm from Malaysia originally, so
Yep.
community is something very big there.
Yeah.
So coming here after COVID, I realized that people just kind of, they move in their own cliques, you know, which I can't blame them. I guess it is what it is. But to those who want to build something, who want to, I guess, change the world, they're seeking community. I mean, I feel that way. If I could be surrounded in a room or like a friend group of like-minded individuals who all kind of think the same and want to do the same thing, that's, if you ask me, it's why run clubs came about. Why they're really so big. It's like a sense of community, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's always different hiking with one person
Yeah.
than it is with 7 other people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a sense of like shared struggle.
Yeah.
That's what people need,
Yeah.
which is why team sports is so loved. But I
Yeah.
think it's something that we've lost and we need to find it back. you
Yeah,
know?
community is a great one that I've tackled since, not tackled, but been thinking about passionately since COVID. And I don't have a great sort of like view for you to sort of talk about because I don't really know myself. Like I definitely feel like I definitely want community. And I definitely want to do all this, but I don't really have a solve for it in my head or like, you know, what's really caused this breakdown. People have, you know, come up to me and we've chatted about it. You know, it could be because people found confidence in themselves and they just like being alone, or they found like their cliques like during COVID online and they just stay with that clique. Or it's comfort. There's a bunch of different things to it, but I think I don't have a good answer to it. I think it's like one of those things that just seem to happen. How do you fix something you don't know the cause of? It's like, you know, you can. I think there's a lot of great people that are trying to sort of go out and tackle it, and I think that's great. But yeah, you're right. I think community has been lost a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to work it out. I think trying to understand, because I mean, we evolutionary, we were never supposed to work alone.
Yeah,
we've always worked in tribes and in groups, and I think that we work our best when we work in groups and tribes.
Yeah, I mean that's funny, right? Because a lot of like the posts that you see online about like grinding and working hard, it's all about working by yourself. It's the lone wolf, the lion on the wall. That's just like, and it talks about all that. But it's like, I don't think this startup could have happened if it had just been one person.
That's it.
It's taken almost 50 people's worth of thoughts and contributions to get this to the stage that we're at, and it's going to take a whole lot more to get it forward. It's like people are the only thing that matters when it comes to anything in this world. When it comes to doing things, when it comes to like, you know, ownership of like responsibility, when it comes to all these things, it's people. That's what matters. And the people are the drivers of everything that happens in this world. You can't let a computer do that, at least right now, you know, who knows where AI goes, but it's like people are the things that matter, and you got to do it with a lot of different people. You got to be together with different people.
It's like chess, man. You know, I look at it like chess. You can't just have one pawn on the board and then trying to defeat the whole game, right? You gotta have a rook, and a rook doesn't want to be a knight. A knight's a knight. And a bishop doesn't want to be a knight too. A bishop's a bishop. And everyone has their specific role. Yeah. And you just got to focus on that, right? And for me, I think that's what community is. If I could kind of group what I feel community is, it's that. It's a bishop being a bishop. It's a knight being a knight. And then working in harmony. To, I guess, you know, defeat a common goal or to achieve whatever they want to achieve. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, I think I want to talk a bit about modern food.
Modern food.
I'm sure you have a lot of views on, I guess, where we're at with modern food. You know, I think I want to start about what do you think of, like, is food becoming too engineered? Do you think?
Oh, for sure. I think there's a lot of things in the modern life that's a bit too engineered and aesthetic, right? Yeah. You know, so nature is one of those things that is most beautiful when it is rougher around the edges. Okay. You know, a perfectly curated garden that's symmetrical probably doesn't beat going out into a rainforest, for example. And I think with agriculture, so let me define first. It's like when I talk about food, I talk about primary production, which is what you imagine agriculture to be. And then you look at the whole supply chain. You look at the whole value chain, maybe like, you know, processing milk into cheese, blah, blah, blah. And then you look at where it ends up on supermarket shelves and how it ends up on supermarket shelves, and then it getting to your plate. So it's like, is it too over-engineered? Like we've been doing genetically modified produce for God knows how long now, and that's not the main sort of thing around it. But we've sort of tried controlling. That's just a symptom of us trying to control everything around how food comes about and how it gets to your plate. Everything about it, and what it's resulted in is sort of, you have food that tastes like water. You have food that isn't as nutritious as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
You have farmers shutting down their farms because they can't afford to keep farming.
Mm-hmm.
And you have consumers paying the price, and companies in the middle gaining the benefits. And it's like, 95% of your food's life is spent actually in that supply chain.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Like you want fresh food. Most likely it probably isn't as fresh as you imagine it to be. And like a lot of people like blaming farmers for this, and it's a really interesting take because you've obviously then never talked to a farmer realistically about what they want to do.
Yeah.
They are not sort of in control of everything when they have to balance all of their risk. They have to balance all of their money year by year, where they don't know if they're going to have a drought or a flood or they're going to have prime conditions. And so realistically, in the end, you have the people that buy off the farms really controlling that. They know the customer. They dictate what quality produce they buy and what happens. And so it's like it comes down to farmers just do whatever they can if they're running low on money to be able to sell their produce. I heard this story that was like, one of the biggest suppliers of apples to Australia. This farm was run by a family, and the family would go out of their pocket to dose micronutrients into their orchard. And this is because, when you look at what supermarkets want from agricultural systems, they want the produce to look good.
Yeah.
And they want the produce to last a long time. And everything else just gets thrown out of the window.
Yeah.
They don't care if the nutritional density isn't as high. They don't care about all these other things. It's just get it beautiful, get it to us.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, he would go out of pocket to dose micronutrients to make sure that the people in Australia were eating the right food, nutritious food. And then it just became economically unviable.
Of course.
And it just I don't know what happened, but it's like, it's probably happening with a lot more places now, where it's just maybe they were never incentivized to do it, but farmers would go out of the way to do it because they know that that's what it does.
Yeah.
And then you commercialize the system down to a point where you just can't do what's good for the consumer anymore.
Yeah.
And realistically, a lot of what comes out of farms is dictated by what consumers want. 10 out of 10 times.
Of course.
If you cut off trade with China, all your wineries get all your vineyards get shut down in Australia. And that's what happened a few years ago when they cut all that off, is that a lot of vineyards had to shut down in Australia. And so it's like, it's crazy how much power the consumer has in that point. We talk about supermarkets, but realistically it's like what you buy and what your friends buy and what you actually put your commerce towards is like, or your money's towards is like, that's what really drives it. Because, what you buy and what you're interested in is what supermarkets want to sell. And then what supermarkets want to sell is what they're going to buy off farmers and incentivize farmers to go off and farm and grow and do. It's like, that's sort of just what it is.
Yeah, for sure. It's a really tricky one. I think that we've kind of transitioned into this period now where, like you said, I think it's what consumers want. If consumers weren't buying it, then it wouldn't be selling. But the types of foods that people are buying and the type of things that people are eating, you know that feeling when you just eat like some really bad food and that feeling you get?
Yeah.
I did like this, I don't know if you would call it an experiment, but I guess more so just to try eating a whole food diet. So I'm talking like no processed foods in the sense of like candy bars or like protein bars or stuff like that. So one ingredient foods. And I really couldn't believe how I felt.
It's crazy, right? Because I used to, like, my co-founder is even more sort of radical about it, but he cut out sugar a few years ago completely up to this day.
Now?
Until now. He has not touched like sugar.
So like
realistically.
fruit's fine, or like
fruit's fine. So it's like just like
sugar.
intentional processed sugar.
Okay,
basically. There's probably one or two instances, but it's like when you're looking at a chocolate bar, he's probably not going to touch it. But it's like, when you really focus on just eating those single ingredients, ingredient foods, even though there's not as much nutrition in them as you would like, compared to the processed foods, it's a whole different world. And it sounds so fluffy when you talk about it outside of it, but when you actually do it, you're like, this is crazy.
It's crazy. Like, just eating stuff like really like good quality, and another thing is good quality foods.
Yeah.
The difference that you feel, like that feeling after you eat like a big pizza. I mean, you know that feeling. You just want to take a nap, you know. But like compared to eating like a good steak with like some veggies, or like
stuff it. I'm hungry already. I didn't have lunch after this actually.
And honestly, I wish that more people would be going down this route, because now we've been pushing this again. When I talk about like too engineered, like too aesthetic when it comes to food, everything has like the word extra protein on it, high protein. You know, like like this high protein, high protein that. When like you just take a look at the ingredients behind it, like even like a protein powder, that's something like so many people take, and like you turn around like the big brands, and you just have a look at the ingredients, and like, you don't even understand what the ingredients are, and you don't need that many ingredients. And then not to mention even the flavorings and all that. Like I really just I wonder what that does to you. Like if you took two people. One person solely on a whole food diet, and one person on, I guess you could say, a modern diet. What that actually does for their brain, I'd really love to know.
This is something I'm really passionate about, right? So I talk about childhood nutrition. It's like being able to develop and form those synapses and be able to develop your brain in a certain way with the right nutrients. Probably, you can imagine it probably is a really important thing. And so it's like, you know, when we talk about like childhood nutrition, it's like that's been a really big passion for mine, because imagine sort of what diseases and what disabilities you can prevent from an early age, and developmental disorders you can prevent from an early age if you just had adequate access to good nutrition. But I think it's really interesting that you bring up high quality food as well, because I guess we're in a certain place where we can afford it. We have access to it. You know, it's delivered to the shop downstairs, and we have the money in our account to go off and buy it. But then you look at the families that maybe generationally haven't been able to do that. And so you talk about the effect that it has on you, right? The fact that you eat, like, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, or whatever the opposite of that is, like a self-fulfilling curse. The more processed food you eat, the less sort of energy and sort of like, I guess ability you have, and then you don't want to go out and cook, and then you like basically it just keeps rolling into this into this frame of like, you know, maybe you're already earning not enough money. Like you talk about like uni students eating like packets of ramen, for example, and it's like that probably isn't doing you any great. And if that's the only thing that you can afford, it's like, well, it's going to give you even less energy, maybe just enough energy to study, but then not enough to cook, not enough to like go off and do this. And you look at families that have maybe been feeding their kids, or even they as children had like a certain like a considerably bad diet, and it's like, you know, their kids just won't eat vegetables because that's just how they were raised in the womb. In the when they were children, they just, you know, their parents maybe didn't have the time to cook and go out and think about all this stuff, and it's just becomes again that self-fulfilling curse of just like, you know, as they grow up, then their families would follow the same patterns unless they decide to break it. And it's like, well, then at that point, it's like it's not really their choice psychologically. It becomes it's the onus is on the governments to do it, right? And people who can care about those issues to be like, well, this isn't right. Like, you know, this, like, you know, processed food being the only option for these families shouldn't be the thing.
Sure.
And it's like you go, okay, well, you know, probably in that point push governments to do better. I mean, there's so many parts of the puzzle to change how the world works. It's like creating a product's one thing, then changing people's minds is another. Like, and maybe people's minds do get changed, but then is it the right people's minds that are getting changed? You know, the wealthy have always wanted healthier food, so there'll always be like one that always care about it.
Of course. I mean, I'm speaking about this from a very privileged space.
So am I.
Yeah, because I think we have the ability to afford it. I guess I'm talking very much about the people who are in the same position that we are at, but I don't know if it comes from a place of ignorance or it comes from a place of just not wanting to make that change because the processed food just tastes so good. And that, so I genuinely don't understand, because, you know, you talk to people about this and like, they know, like people are not stupid. Like they know what is healthy and what's not. You know? It's like, you go online and people are like, oh, how do I like gain muscle, or how do I like lose fat, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm eating this. Like, you kind of know what you should be eating, what you shouldn't be eating, like intuitively, kind of.
I mean, those are all marketing tactics, basically, right? Like, you've fallen victim to
Yeah.
that, and it's like you can't really blame them for that either.
Mhm.
Because, for example, the Krispy Kreme donut
Yeah.
is specifically engineered to have the right fat sugar ratio to
Mhm.
really make your brain go, I want more of this.
Interesting. Okay.
And so it's like, these are things that you can't control yourself.
Yeah.
You are like, they have literally hacked ingredients to align with like how your brain thinks about food
Mhm.
and make it addictive. That goes with
For
social
sure.
media. That goes
Yeah.
with everything. It's
Yeah.
like that's how it's sort of been made,
Yeah.
and that's just what it is. Like, you can't really blame these people. I mean, education obviously is the biggest
Yeah.
thing. Then it's also like, do they have effort to go off and make it? Students
I think
studying.
that's the thing, It's like
Yeah.
it's education first. And one thing I have been really, really seeing is that there's been a big push for that. Like, there's a lot more content creators coming out and being like, hey, they've been selling you a lie for like the past 10 years,
Yeah,
and this is what you should be eating.
yeah,
And I think that's really good. It's really positive.
It
There's
is.
a lot more. I think that's one of the benefits of social media. I think being able to have a voice.
yeah.
Like, yeah, as much as we have like a voice to say whatever you want, like being able to push these kind of messages and be like, hey, listen, like you can take this advice if you want. You don't have to, but this is what you should be eating, and just try it. These are the benefits.
I love TikToks for recipes, man. Like literally, like if I need to
Yeah.
cook something and I want to cook it, I'll just go on
That's it.
TikTok and I've got
Yeah.
a recipe for it, which has been fantastic. So I don't
Yeah.
need to go figure out the ingredients list and all this. It's just
For
like
sure.
a really digestible, quick piece.
Yeah.
Tells you the ingredients in the bottom, and you just go off and make it. And I
Yeah.
think, you're right. Like, I think we are moving for a shift towards healthier eating. People
Yeah.
are seeing the problems with it, and there's actually more options out there for healthy food as well.
And which I've been noticing too. Like
Mm.
a lot of people are pushing, I guess, let it not be whole food specifically,
Yeah.
but healthier options of like processed foods in general.
Yeah.
Which I think is such a great push.
There's a lot more that we need to do about it. Like,
Yeah.
one of the big things, if the option isn't there for you, one of the big things I always push for is just, first of all, have a good relationship with your food.
Mhm.
And it's, to prevent eating disorders, to prevent you
Yeah.
overthinking. And in the end, you don't have a good relationship with your food. It's like, it doesn't matter how healthily you eat if you're not eating, or if you're eating too much, or if
Yeah.
you're doing things that are going to be unhealthy anyway. So it's like, having healthy food available is the responsibility of those who can make that happen.
Mhm.
Of governments, of people like us, I guess, in some sort of way.
Yeah,
but like
I guess so, man.
the people in these institutions, and it's just like, we need to do that work to do it. And so it's like, if you are living in a place where you don't have access to it and you can't make it happen, at least have a good relationship
Yeah.
with your food. Basically, don't shame yourself. Don't think you need to like lose weight or gain weight for this specific thing.
Yeah.
Definitely move towards eating healthier, but
Yeah.
don't force yourself in a frame where you're just starving yourself for the sake
Yeah.
of losing weight and all these things. Like, that's not going to be good for your mental health
Of
or your
course.
physical health long term.
It's finding that medium that I think a lot of people are struggling with.
Yeah.
Where it's like, on one end you have this extremist view where
Yeah.
it's like, I'm gonna eat practically nothing
Yeah.
because I need to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And on the other end, it's like, it's just, you kind of need this medium where it's like
Yeah.
a good mix of healthy and like education and like yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. So I think that's one thing that I really am pretty interested in, I guess.
Yeah.
Pushing the idea of healthy eating. Another
Yeah.
thing that I'd like to talk about is evolutionarily wise.
Mm.
How do you think that has changed the way that we're built? Like
That's
if you
a
look,
great
if you
point.
look at guys and women from like the 40s, for example, the way that they were built in terms of even like skull shapes and skeleton shapes and bone density, and you look compared to now, like even if you look at stuff like jaws, like the strength of the jaw, like
Yeah.
the structure of the jaw, there's so many
Yeah.
things that have changed. Do you have any views on that?
Yeah, I think my co-founder would actually have a lot of views on
Okay.
that, because he talks about this quite a lot. He's very much someone who thinks from corporate, like the core based principles,
Yeah.
basically type of thinking, where it's like, how did we do it back when we were like cavemen, right? Or
Yeah.
like coming out of it. It's like, I love this because anthropology is one thing
Mhm.
is also I'm really interested about. It's like the development of humans
Yeah.
and society and culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, the jaw thing is probably really interesting because we
Yeah.
probably ate like fruits and nuts and things that were a
Yeah.
lot harder back in the day.
Yep.
And it's like, there's a lot of things that change our bone structure and our shape, right? Like, maybe I slept on my right side too much as a kid, and so my bone structure on my right cheek juts out a little bit, and so it's like there's all these different things. But I think evolutionary is just like, you know, what we eat now. Things like probably eating processed food is not that great for development of your muscles or your bones, right? So it's like, you know, those are just some of the things that happen. I think, again, we were sort of designed to be hunter-gatherers, to eat those types of things. We were supposed to be picking nuts and berries off of trees and hunting our game and, you know, having that type of diet. For sure. And with what we're doing now, it's very different to it. Yeah. We've come into an age of comfort. And, you know, I still take on spearfishing. I still go out and try and hunt my fish as much as I can. And, you know, I try and grow my food as much as possible. But that's not exactly picking berries and nuts off of trees. But it's like trying to get as much nutrients in and really reconnecting with what it means to be human. And I think there's a big shift in that as well, actually, is people reconnecting with, like, what it means to be and, you know, forfeiting this sort of more how would you describe it? This more sort of manufactured world, I guess, where everything's sort of done for you.
Yeah, manufactured world. It's a pretty interesting way to put it. Yeah, you know. And I think one more thing, going back to that, I'm sure you've seen like the whole push of like on social media, the guys eating steaks on the chopping board with the berries and all that, and the amount of people actually like flaming other people for that. I get it that it's like overused. Yeah. But in my opinion, some of the, maybe not the chopping board, but like that style of eating is probably the closest thing that you can to like proper healthy food. Yeah. And the fact that people are getting a lot of backlash by eating that way, and it's just bizarre to me.
I think it's going to be a lot of what they stand for, right? Like a lot of the time, I think it's like these people stand for, like, maybe the eating values are great, but maybe what they like, it's always going to be influencer character is going to make people think different things. So it's like the fact that it's like raw, like almost like I like my steak blue. I like almost raw meat. I love tartare. I just like all that, and it's like you know, like a good steak and like, you know, berries and all that. It absolutely entices me. But then you look at some of the other things that these, I guess, influencers tote, and you're like, if they're this type of person and they're eating this thing, then this thing must not be good. And so there's definitely merit in what they're eating and why people gravitate towards it. But I think a lot of the flaming comes from just what messages they stand for. And I think that's really important as well. I'm like, you know, you'd think I'd probably be a vegan or something, but I'm very much like a meat eater. I love having a balanced diet of all this different stuff. And I think it's fantastic that this is sort of coming out more into the limelight, maybe in a different medium sometimes for, you know, for like more reach. I'm not saying these are bad people specifically, but just people don't agree with what they, what their platform is. And that's what generally causes it.
All right. I think we're going to probably call it there. I do have a final question.
Yeah, go for it.
If someone's listening and is quietly sitting on an idea that they want to start on, they want to act on it, but they kind of, something's stopping them, what would you say to them?
You know, I can sound cliche and just be like, just start. That's like that's like the classic one through all of it, right? But I think I want to say something a little bit different. I think you need to identify whether it's your gut stopping you from doing it or your mind, because you should almost every single time trust your gut. And if it's something logical in your mind holding you back from trusting your gut, probably decide to trust your gut more than you trust your mind sometimes. And you really got to work out how to identify that. But I think I've always been in the mind of trusting my gut, and it's always led me in the right direction. And learning how to do that has never led me astray. And so that's what I'm going to say about that.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much for your time, Yi.
Thanks, Imran. Thanks for having me. No, I appreciate it, man.